Okay, imagine this for a second. A relatively small nation, maybe one you haven't thought much about on the world stage, but it holds this incredibly rich, significant key to understanding the genetic history of, well, an entire continent.
It's a fascinating idea, right? And it's actually not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
No, this deep dive is all about the Slovak Republic. Researchers are finding it has this truly remarkable genetic identity. It's much more than just DNA data points. Think of it like a living archive.
A living archive. I like that.
Yeah, it tells the story of prehistoric Europe, those massive Slavic migrations we hear about, and also the sheer power of geographic isolation.
Right. Okay. So that's our mission today then. We want to unpack why scientists are starting to call Slovakia this underrated DNA powerhouse of Central Europe.
Exactly.
We're going to dig into the surprising facts, what makes its gene pool so special, how did its unique spot on the map, its geography shape all this, and why is its DNA causing such a stir now in scientific circles?
It's a great story written in our genes. And, well, that story starts deep, deep in the past. Scientists have found the DNA in Slovakia. It tells a story much richer than its, modern borders might suggest.
Okay.
It places back to ancient hunter-gatherers and then later medieval Slavs.
So to really get into this genetic story, we probably need some numbers, right? Like, what are the key markers scientists look at?
Good point. Well, for starters, they found that over 41% of Slovak men carry something called the R1A haplogroup.
41%. That sounds high. I mean, in the context of European genetics, is that unusually high for one group? What's that tell us?
It is notably high, yes. R1A is a big marker widely found across Slavic and Indo-European populations generally. Okay. So it's high frequency in Slovakia. That's like a direct genetic echo of those huge Slavic migrations that swept across Europe. It shows just how profound their impact was right there.
A genetic echo.
But what's also really interesting is you've also got a significant chunk, maybe 17 to 20% of Slovak males, with the I2A1 haplogroup.
I2A1. Okay, different from R1A.
Very different. Unlike R1A, which points to those, let's say, later migrations, I2A1 is a much deeper European lineage. It traces back to some of the earliest Balkan and Neolithic settlers.
Neolithic. So farming comes into play.
Exactly. It hints at these ancient southern connections. It tells us Slovakia's genetic story started long, long before those big Slavic movements dominated the picture.
And it's not just the guys, right? What about the maternal side?
Right. The mtDNA, the mitochondrial DNA from the mother side. So like most of Europe, mtDNA-H is dominant. That's pretty standard.
Okay.
But what stands out in Slovaks is a higher than average frequency of U5.
U5.
Yes, and U5 is fascinating because it's one of the oldest European female lineages. It's like a genetic timestamp.
Wow.
It connects them directly back to Ice Age hunter-gatherers, the earliest folks on the continent after the ice retreated.
So you're literally seeing traces of the first Europeans there.
In their maternal DNA, absolutely. It's a direct link to the very first chapters of European human history, still present today.
Amazing. So if we zoom out a bit, what does this mix tell historians?
Well, historians really emphasize Slovakia's position here. It's sitting at this crucial genetic crossroads. You've got east-west gene flow, north-south gene flow, all converging in this relatively small area.
Like a genetic intersection on a superhighway.
That's a perfect analogy. It captured and preserved all these different migration patterns over thousands of years.
But okay, how did these ancient signals, these genetic echoes, actually survive? You'd think centuries of people moving around, mixing.
That brings us to the geography. Slovakia's landscape itself played a huge role. It acted as a natural preserver.
How so?
Think about the mountains, especially in the highlands, places like Orava or Spia. The terrain created pockets of relative isolation.
Okay.
Populations there often show remarkably less genetic mixing compared to, say, lowland areas. It's almost like these mountains acted as a natural time capsule.
Time capsules.
Right.
Protecting the older genetic signatures.
Precisely. And this is why population geneticists get excited. They call Slovakia a gold mine.
A gold mine?
Yeah, think about it. In lots of Europe, constant movement has sort of smoothed out the genetic landscape, blended everything together. But here, because of the mountains, you have these pockets where you can trace lineages that haven't shifted dramatically in maybe 2,000 years.
Wow. That's rare.
Incredibly rare. It gives us this unusually clear window into ancient populations, how they lived, how they adapted. It's much harder to see that clearly elsewhere.
And does this preservation have any other implications, maybe health-related?
That's an active area of research, actually. Because you have this long-term preservation of specific gene pools, researchers are asking, is this linked to maybe unique health resilience traits or even vulnerabilities to certain genetic disorders?
Interesting.
It's like a natural laboratory to study how ancient genes affect modern health, potentially huge for medical applications down the line.
Now, this rich genetic picture must touch on some sensitive topics, right? Like identity, history.
Absolutely. It inevitably intersects with those things. One particularly complex area is this whole debate around who are the true Slavs.
Ah, yeah. That sounds tricky.
It is. Linguistically, culturally, Slovakia is firmly part of the Slavic world. No question there.
But genetically.
Genetically, as we've seen, it's more nuanced. Yes, there's that high R1A, the strong Slavic signal, but you've also got that significant I2A1, you've got R1B, which is more common in Western Europe, even some E1B1B often linked to the Balkans or North Africa.
So a real mix.
A real mix, which complicates any simple narrative of, pure Slavic ancestry.
And how does that play out in sort of political or national discussions?
Well, reporting impartially here, it has been used in nationalist arguments. Some groups in neighboring countries have actually pointed to this genetic diversity to argue that Slovaks are somehow less Slavic.
Okay, but what do scientists say about that claim?
Oh, modern science widely rejects that interpretation. Genetic diversity doesn't make a population less of anything, but, the claim itself sparks some pretty intense debates, especially online or among diaspora communities.
Right. It's a classic case of scientific data being kind of misused or misinterpreted for other agendas.
Exactly. And what added fuel to this fire was a particular study. It actually grouped Slovaks genetically closer to Central Europeans, like Czechs and Hungarians, than to East Slavs, like Russians or Belarusians.
Really? Closer to Hungarians even than Russians?
Genetically, in that study, yes. Which, as you can imagine, really stirred the pot in that ongoing debate about Slavic identity.
Yeah, I can see how. It just shows, I guess, that genetic identity isn't simple. It's not just neat boxes on a map.
Not at all. It's complex, layered, and often surprising.
So bringing this down to earth a bit, does this genetic makeup connect to, like, everyday traits or health things people might notice?
Researchers are definitely looking into that. For example, they've found moderately high lactose tolerance in Slovaks.
Okay, like they can digest milk pretty well as adults.
Yeah, which often suggests a history with dairy farming pastoralist ancestry mixed in there.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Well, they've also looked at variants in alcohol dehydrogenase enzymes.
The enzymes that break down alcohol.
Exactly. Variations there can affect how quickly or efficiently someone metabolizes alcohol. It's a trait that interests population health researchers, looking at patterns across groups.
Right.
And they've also noted some specific autoimmune gene markers. These are genetic signatures linked to how our immune system works. They might tell us something about, say, ancient resistance to certain viruses, or perhaps predispositions to certain autoimmune conditions today.
So the research has real practical potential, not just historical interest.
Absolutely. It bridges the deep past with present-day health.
And beyond the biological, could there be cultural echoes? Like, does this genetic past show up in traditions or anything?
It's speculative, but fascinating to think about. Some suggest maybe that's why you find unique musical scales and folk songs from certain isolated mountain regions, or why dialects can change so much from one valley to the next.
Ah, so the same isolation that preserved genes might have preserved distinct cultural bits, too.
Possibly. These could be subtle cultural reverberations of those ancient separations that the DNA points to, like the past kind of whispering through cultural forms.
That's a lovely way to put it. So looking bigger picture again, what's Slovakia's role now in, like, major European genetics projects?
It's actually become quite important. Slovakia is part of several big pan-European genome mapping initiatives.
Why? What makes its population so valuable for those larger studies?
Because its population holds these crucial insights. Insights into how Europe was resettled after the Ice Age, how Neolithic farming spread, how Slavic languages dispersed across the continent, because it has both the ancient layers and the major migration signals.
It connects different parts of the story.
Exactly. And because it's so centrally located and has these unique preserved pockets, it acts as a vital piece of the entire European puzzle.
A key piece.
Scientists sometimes call it a control point.
A control point, meaning what?
Meaning that understanding Slovakia's specific genetic story, the mix, the isolation, the location, is actually vital for understanding the genetic architecture of all of Europe. You can't really map the whole continent accurately without understanding this linchpin region.
Wow. So a small country, but a major genetic linchpin for the whole continent.
Undeniably. It punches way above its weight, genetically speaking.
So let's try and sum this up. Why is the Slovak Republic's gene pool so special?
I think it's because it's this ancient mosaic kind of hidden in plain sight. You've got echoes of Ice Age wanderers right next to Balkan farmers, Celtic influences, maybe Roman soldiers passing through, and then those big waves of Slavic settlers.
All layered together.
All layered and compressed into this one resilient population shaped by those mountains. It really reminds us that even in what seems like a small place, the human story is just epic. It's complex, it's deeply rooted.
That's a great summary. An ancient mosaic hidden in plain sight. And I guess this deep dive leaves us and leaves you listening with a pretty big question to chew on.
Which?
What truly defines identity? Is it our genes? Is it the land, the geography we inhabit? Or is it our culture, our language, our stories? Maybe it's somewhere in the mix of all three.